Welcome to Boarding School 360 webinar series. We are so glad to have you all joining us this evening. My name is Katie Garrett of Garrett Educational Consulting and Boarding School 360. In addition to assisting families with both the boarding school and college process through our educational consulting services, we have also launched Boarding School 360 to serve as a resource for our students and families to learn more about boarding school. Tonight, we are going to continue with our series of webinars called Tuesday Tutorials to help educate families on the boarding school process, especially as it relates to COVID. Tonight, our topic is going to be on junior boarding schools, which I am very excited about. And tonight, we have a panel discussion and an incredible lineup of junior boarding school admissions officers who are going to be able to give us an overview of what junior boarding school is, as well as tell us about each of their individual schools. So without further ado, I'm going to let each of the panelists introduce themselves. We'll go in alphabetical order. So Kim, if you want to start, that would be great.
Sure. Thank you, Katie, for having us. It's great to be here. My name is Kim Loughlin. I'm the Assistant Head of School and Director of Admission at the Bement School in Deerfield, Massachusetts.
Great. Christopher?
Yes, thanks for joining this great opportunity to learn more about junior boarding schools. My name is Christopher Loftus. I'm the Director of Admissions at Eaglebrook School, also in Deerfield, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Okay, Matt?
Yes, thank you again for joining us tonight. My name is Matt Greene from Fay School, and we are located in Southborough, Massachusetts.
All right, we have Greg up next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Greg Hendrick, the Associate Director of Admissions at the Fessenden School. We are an all-boys junior boarding school located in West Newton, Massachusetts, about 10 miles outside of Boston.
Thank you. Bill?
Thank you, Katie. My name is Bill Newman. I'm the Assistant Headmaster for Enrollment and Secondary School Placement at the Hillside School, Junior Boarding School, grades 4 through 9, 45 minutes west of Boston in Marlborough, Massachusetts.
Thank you for joining us. All right, Heather.
Thanks, Katie. I am Heather Eckert. I am the Assistant Head of Enrollment Management and Director of Admission at Indian Mountain School, located in Lakeville, Connecticut.
Evan.
Hi, Katie. Thank you. My name is Evan Campbell. I'm the Senior Enrollment Manager at Rectory School, another junior boarding school, obviously, and we're located in the northeast corner of Connecticut in Pomfret.
And last but not least, we got Ben.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ben Tuff. I am the Director of Admissions at Rumsey Hall School in Washington, Connecticut, about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes north of New York City. And we are a co-ed junior boarding school.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you guys have a lot on your plates these days and are likely zoomed out and ready to relax this evening. So I really appreciate y'all being here with us tonight to share more with our families. So I thought it might be helpful to start with maybe some general overview information on junior boarding school, or is what y'all call it, the JBS world. So let's start with Ben. What is junior boarding school and what is the purpose of it?
So junior boarding school is a very unique entity. There are only 9 of us in, we're all in New England, and we've been around a really long time. And the junior boarding school experience offers a very unique experience to a diverse group of students. First off, it offers them structure. Every day, every weekend, every second of every hour is accounted for and provides them with the structure that they need to get the support and to find the success that maybe they haven't attained yet or are striving to attain. And, secondly, very important to the junior boarding school world is the relationships that are developed. And you will find that your child will develop the most meaningful relationships with both their peers and their teachers. And these relationships are those that will last a lifetime. It takes a very patient, special person to be a junior boarding school educator. I'm sure many of you can attest to this if you've had any bit of interactions with your child in front of a computer trying to learn from home most recently. And all the junior boarding school professionals have made the choice. This is the life and this is the age group, as difficult and as many ups and downs as it has. This is where they belong, helping transform and mold your child into the best human possible. One of the greatest things to watch from my point of view and from all of our points of view is the shift in the parental role, where the parental role in middle school once was the person who is really having to be on top of the child and having to be the enforcer of rules. Suddenly things switch gears and the parents then become the champion of academic success and athletic success as the teachers and advisors take over that role in their child's their child's lives, in trying to help make them the best as they can. And you know, one of the greatest parts is the opportunity afforded to these kids, because they no longer have to take those long car rides to soccer practice or to hockey practice or any of the athletics events or to be a part of the play in town. Instead, everything will be in their backyard. And at the same time, at all of our institutions, it's such a great place for kids to be their own boss. And if our schools don't have a robotics program, if our schools don't have a finance club, then let's start one. And we're going to create leaders. You know, there's a reason why the JBS students are so sought after by the secondary schools and why our kids go on to these top places for education. And it's stems from their self-confidence. It stems from their high levels of executive functioning skills and ability to stay organized. But most importantly, it stems from their ability to put forth their full effort and to understand their full potential because of all of those who paved the way for them along the way during their junior boarding school experience.
Thank you. That was great. So that leads into a good question. So how do junior boarding schools differ from the traditional high school boarding school? So Greg, if you could address that, that would be awesome.
Sure. I want to pick up on a couple of themes that Ben just spoke about. You know, structure and the one-stop shopping. Those are definitely two of them. But again, you know, boarding school in general is not for every child. It's not for every family. So there's really two bodies that may really want to look at a junior boarding school. And some of those are, you know, one might be a family that maybe has a tradition of boarding school or knows that they want boarding school for, you know, for high school, secondary school. And we can be a wonderful stepping stone for those more traditional high school boarding experiences. Some might be hoping to explore boarding down the road and in many cases call it 7th or 8th grade, and I'll touch on 9th grade as well. But it is a way to experience the boarding life in a bit more of a structured environment. And yes, we are different. Our clientele, they are And pardon me if I use boys or a boys' school, but if, a 7th grade boy or 8th grade girl for that matter, they do need a bit more structure and a bit more guidance than, say, a 17-year-old boy or girl that has very different interests and is into different things. So there's usually smaller schools. It is much more of a sense of community. I've been on the vast majority of the schools that are represented here today, and they're smaller campuses. We have 105 boarders. There's probably a range from maybe 50 to 150, 200 boarding students at these campuses. So it's a smaller community. We don't have the 10-minute walk to breakfast in the morning and then another 10-minute walk to the first period class. It's a nice, smaller community. Certain children simply benefit from that additional structure, and that can come in many ways. It comes in the academics. A big one is simply time management skills, and there are so many different stories as to why a junior boarding school might be appropriate for our students. And sometimes the parents are working 80 hours a week, respectively, and the kids they don't have any guidance, and they're not getting sitting down and doing their homework. Knowing that the boys will, again, there I go, boys again, but the students will have their academic day, have some study halls, sports traditionally, dinner, and then study hall, maybe before dinner. In our case, before and after dinner. Knowing that time is set for them really simplifies their life and allows them to put in the appropriate time and build those great academic skills. And mentorship, Ben touched on it as well, that it does take a unique individual to want to work at one of these schools, but it's such a rewarding experience. And I say it time and time again, every year, my favorite time of the school year is graduation. We do, or even the week leading up to graduation, there's all these ceremonies. And I can see, wait a minute, I admitted that child as a 6th grader or a 7th grader, and now I can see how much they have developed in terms of their academics, in terms of their maturity. Usually I know where they're headed off for a boarding high school experience, and these kids are ready. They're ready. It also goes, if you might be a family that knows boarding school for high school is definitely a possibility. These secondary school admissions officers, they know all of us, they know all of our schools, they know the type of student that they're going to get coming out of one of our schools. Hopefully they have all their priorities in order. We talk a lot about character development at Fessenden, as we all do. There's a great deal of attention to the academic load that they have. There's wonderful support systems in terms of the academics, as well as the commitment we all make to the arts, to the athletics. So they're getting well-rounded children, and children that have been away. They've experienced the boarding life. And yes, there is not a parent there 24/7, but there are adults nearby. We are not, hey, it's Friday night, we'll see you on Sunday morning type deal. It's very structured, which is terrific. Also, I believe all of our schools offer a 9th grade program. And the best way that I can really sum up the 9th grade experience at our schools is to be a bigger fish in a smaller pond. These are the leaders on our schools. It's amazing to see these kids aspire to these leadership roles that we all offer. And then when they move on, they become a sophomore or a 10th grader. Some may even repeat a 9th grade at a secondary school. They aspire to get back to those leadership roles very quickly. And I think that modeling that we do sets these children up wonderfully to make the most out of their high school experience or boarding school experience. I'll stop there for now.
Thank you. That was awesome. That was great. Okay, so you helped us transition into a couple great things that you touched on. So you talked about the academics at junior boarding schools. So Heather, could you touch on what academics are like at junior boarding schools in addition to academic support services, study hall, those types of things?
Absolutely. And having worked in boarding schools and secondary schools for about 20 years, and now junior boarding schools, I think one of the main questions that we always ask when we're interviewing is, have you spent time away from home? Have you been to summer camp? Have you attended a summer program? And what was that experience like for you? And for, I think, all of us on this call, that is such a good indicator if kids say, yes, I went to this program, I went to this summer camp, I absolutely loved it. I loved being in a diverse environment. Junior boarding school is summer camp with academics added on top of that. So you will love it. In about 2 hours, you will have so many fast friends, and we will be reminding you to call home to your parents. But I think that's a great predictor for success, academic success as well, is, are students ready? Are they ready for this level of independence? Because as Ben and Greg alluded to, it's not for everyone, but for the right kid, it is a magical middle school experience. Having worked at high schools for a really long time before this, I can tell you that junior boarding school is the best kept secret in education. It's a place where, I think I wanted to touch on really 4 areas in terms of academics. The first one being balance, where all of our schools, we have an appropriate level of challenge for students that are motivated, they're ready for honors courses, but as well as amazing support structures where we have academic support services, we have tutoring in place where it's places where it's cool to be smart, but it's also cool to, have one-on-one support. And that is totally normal. I've had students come from backgrounds where they felt like they couldn't be themselves at school, either because they just loved it and they weren't around peers as motivated, or they maybe needed a little bit more attention and guidance. And, our schools provide that as well. So I think that's really important, is that balance of challenge and support, but also making sure that learning and middle school are fun, because that is the most important thing. That's all why we all work with this age group, is such a transformative time in children's lives. And even 1 or 2 years at junior boarding school, I've seen amazing, vast changes in students that they carry with them for life, really. The second point I wanted to touch on is the breadth and depth of our courses. So we all have, like the high schools, amazing resources and amazing courses ranging from high school level math classes to high school level global languages to extensive art and athletic offerings to things like robotics or creative writing, coding, math team, whatever your passions are. We have really amazing opportunities. We also have the ability, like so many secondary schools, for students to come in and develop independent study or projects if there's something that you're really interested in. We have a Latin teacher that is obsessed with ancient Greece, and so he's done special projects with students where they've just looked at the classics and created their own course there. So there really is something for everyone. Another main point I wanted to touch on is just access. I can't tell you how many students have sat in my office and said, I love X, Y, and Z, but I can't do it all where I am right now. I had an advisee from Hawaii. She loved soccer, coding, English, and she literally couldn't get to everything that she wanted to take physically. And we have so many students like that from all over the United States and all over the world, that to have all of these chances to really, explore so many different areas right at your fingertips, where in a lot of school systems, that's just not possible where our students live. And I know that Greg and Ben both touched on this as well, but just having these middle school experts with the right preparation for secondary school, where our students will be successful because of the experiences that they've had with us. Which leads me to my fourth point, just talking about the critical skills that our students leave with. I shouldn't have been shocked, but when I first moved to junior boarding school from working in high schools, I found that I was having so many of the same conversations with my advisees, and that I was having with new students that were sophomores and juniors in high school to seventh graders, developing those time management skills, the self-advocacy skills to be able to seek your teachers out when you had questions and needed extra help, and developing confidence in the classroom. And so the students that attend junior boarding school, regardless of whether or not they're aiming to attend boarding high school or a day school, they're equipped with such a stronger level of who they are, so much more confidence in the classroom. And so they can really hit the ground running. And I've seen that with all types of personalities, very extroverted students who become leaders in their second or third year at their high school, but also students that were more introverted and reserved, but they came away with that skill set from junior boarding and being in a smaller environment with a really middle school positive experience and a community around them that very quickly they also contributed in really meaningful ways, regardless of what type of student they were, regardless of whether they loved arts or athletics or were into theater, whatever the case may be. I really think that helping the students set them up for success, no matter what academic next path is for them. And Katie asked about study halls, and I think Greg mentioned that they have study hall at Fessenden before and after dinner. There's so much structure within the day that our students they have very little downtime. So built into our schedules, they have study hall every evening, and that really helps them with their time management and getting organized. So that way they're equipped for the next step after us.
Thank you. That was great, Heather. Okay, so we've talked about academics. And we touched on afternoon and weekend activities. But Christopher, if you could elaborate on what life looks like at junior boarding school after the academic day ends and on weekends, that would be great.
Sure. I think it was wonderful to hear Heather explain so much about, the central focus of our schools, which are preparing kids really well academically for the next step. What I guess I have the fun answer because I get to talk about the real exciting part of our schools and what really makes us different. It's having students understand the balance in life. And one of the greatest things about junior boarding schools is not just the classroom, it's all the other resources and activities that kids are able to be exposed to. The first thing that really happens in all of our schools is a truly well-integrated athletic program that happens in the afternoon. And these programs, Greg had mentioned one-stop shopping. I mean, it is a 4-minute walk to the hockey rink, or for most of us, our athletic facilities are very close to where the kids are going to school or from where their dorms are. The other neat thing about athletics is that it is that platform for students to learn the important life skills. And not only that, but there's this really wonderful overlapping between the teachers and the coaches. Many of the students that are on these teams have their coaches who are also their teachers in the math classroom or in the science classroom. So that interconnectivity and understanding kids both on the sports field and in the classroom is something that really helps. Afterwards, a lot of our schools have the opportunity, as mentioned before, as Ben was mentioning, that there are times for clubs or free times for clubs to gather throughout the week or weekends where kids can pursue their interests, or there are theatrical productions at our schools that happen that are able to happen in times before or around dinner before study hall. I think the bigger thing to talk about is about balance and understanding that one of the skills that students learn at a junior boarding school is the true ability to understand balance in their own life. It's not just about time management in terms of work. it's more about time management and also managing their fun, how to go out and either go for a hike with their friends or go mountain biking or fishing in the pond or doing something, but also using that extra free time to go get extra help. One of the neat things about all environments is that all our schools, it's like you live with 60 to 70 tutors that are within 1 minute walking distance from your own room. So we try to have students at a younger age take on that self-advocacy to learn how to seek extra help so that they can help themselves academically, but also, work with faculty to expand their interest in certain areas. So that's the first thing. The weekend programs are something that also really delineate our schools from many other schools. It's that area of time during the weekend where there is so much learning that goes on. And that's really another thing that makes junior boarding schools special. There's so much character development that occurs by the faculty who are closely working with them on the weekends that take them on special interest trips, either outing club trips at Eaglebrook. We are in a rural area. We have a very large campus, so we do a lot of things outdoors. But there are other schools that are associated in closer and larger city areas. So they're able to go to ball games or go to art museums or science museums or other things. These enrichment activities are really what make our boarding schools special, because kids are able to have fun with each other, not just in the classroom, not just on the sports field, but in a fun trip where they can form really strong friendships and bonds with each other and get to know each other. And also throughout these things that happen on the weekends, they're having fun, but they're also learning very crucial lessons about how to live with one another, how to get along with one another. So this character development happens at junior boarding schools outside the classroom, I would say, as much as it does inside the classroom.
Yeah, those are great points. Thank you. Okay, so we talked a little bit about how life beyond junior boarding school. So Bill, if you could expand on how junior boarding school helps prepare their students for life after that.
Sure. Well, and I think Greg and Heather and Ben and now Chris have really spoken to some of the key elements, but in a nutshell, what we're all doing, we're graduating confident and independent learners. And from where I sit, that is the criteria needed for these students to now navigate what will become a larger, less structured academic environment. Secondary schools love our graduates. And the reason why, we've done 90% of their work. We have educated them to the highest standards. Our graduates are accomplished speakers. They make announcements for our hockey teams. They get up at chapel and give sermons, if you will. They know how to organize their thoughts on paper, be it 1 year, be it 3 years. They've been living away from home, learning how to negotiate with a roommate. So their transition onto high school has really become seamless. It's a walk through the park. Last year, one of the most elite, most competitive, selective secondary schools in New England declared that out of a particular country, they were only accepting graduates from junior boarding schools. Do not apply directly out of your country. If you are a graduate of a junior boarding school, you're in the queue. So it really speaks volumes to how the secondary schools value the work that we do. Each of us has what parents might remember as college counseling offices. We have the same, but for secondary school placement. And our timelines may be a little bit different. At Hillside, we begin with the SSATs in April, and we use that as a benchmark to begin framing our conversations with parents about finding the right fit for schools. We have a secondary school fair in the spring. Some schools offer that in the fall. Many of us have secondary school representatives who come and visit us each fall. And we help make those connections between candidates and secondary schools. Our families are out over the summer prior to their 9th grade year doing self-guided tours, trying to get a feel for the campus. We talk about co-ed, single sex, size, geography, parents who want to be present for those hockey games, lacrosse games. What's the geographic range that they're comfortable with? Size, 250, 600 students. So we look at a variety of factors in creating a list of secondary schools. Most of us offer the students a week off in October where they go out and tour and interview at the secondary schools. We conduct mock interviews prior to their going out. All the social graces of standing up when the admission officer comes in to the waiting room, eye contact, handshakes, follow-up thank you notes, handwritten. And then we have them create a pros and cons list. We confer with parents after the tour, whittle down that list, add to that list. Some gentle guidance on the essays. But our offices are responsible for gathering teacher recommendations, transcripts. Typically, first round deadlines are January 15th, followed by February 1, February 15th, and then a rolling admission with notifications that come out March 10th, deadlines April 10th. So there's a lot of conversations that go on in between, some additions, deletions, but each of us have a staff that guide our families through that process. The schools do offer revisit days. Not sure how that's going to work this year. It's about a year-long process. But each of our schools does an outstanding job, I think, of guiding our families through that funnel.
That was great. Great information. Thank you. So at this point, I'm going to let each of you share about your individual schools. If anyone in attendance has any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box or the Q&A, and we will most certainly get to those questions or comments either during the presentations or at the end before closing remarks, whichever seems more appropriate. So starting off, we will start off with Bement.
Right. And I'm going to share my screen to share some photographs of Bement. I may actually I may skip that because I'm getting a signal that my Wi-Fi is unstable, so I'm not going to risk it. But thank you again for joining us tonight. Again, my name is Kim Loughlin. I'm at the Bement School in Deerfield, Massachusetts. We're located about 3 hours north of New York City and 2 hours west of Boston. Bement is a coeducational junior boarding school, and we serve students that are in kindergarten through grade 9. We're approximately 200 students, and our boarding student population is grades 3 through 9 at Bement. And we typically enroll only a small number of boarding students, which I'll mention a little bit more about later, at about 50 students. This year, we have students that come to us from 15 countries and 8 different states, and about 18% of our student population are domestic students of color. I know we feel very grateful, and I know my colleagues on this call feel this similarly, is that we were all able to open in person this fall in spite of COVID. And I think that is a remarkable thing for all of our schools. It took an incredible amount of planning and hard work from our faculty and staff over the summer. And it was just fantastic to see these students who we have gotten to know over the years, and our new students joining us and coming to on our campuses. Bement, it was founded in 1925 by Mrs. Grace Bement, and our approach to teaching and learning is designed to meet the challenge of the students that we serve. We're known as a school that has a strong sense of family and community, where who you are as a person matters greatly. Often I hear people describe Bement as a community that's dedicated to a culture of kindness. Each day and everything that we do, we are committed to our school's 4 core values: compassion, integrity, resilience, and respect. At Bement, we provide a rigorous academic program without losing sight of the fact that we're helping to develop young people. Our dedicated faculty inspires students, but still instill that joy in the process and love of learning. We have recess every day for every grade, and build that right into our schedule. The love of learning is more important than the grades that our students receive. On average, our class sizes are about 8 to 12 students in the lower school, which is kindergarten through 5th grade, and 12 to 14 students in our upper school, which is grades 6 through 9. And our student teacher ratio is about 5 to 1. Bement is also recognized for our performing and fine arts. All of our students, beginning in kindergarten through grade 9, have art every day. And every student starting in 3rd grade starts an instrument, and that continues all the way through 9th grade. You've heard earlier this evening about the emphasis that all of our schools place on opening opportunities and doors for students. We want students to participate. So these aren't things you have to find time to fit in. We build our schedules around all of these interests and provide that time for students to participate. We offer about 5 to 6 competitive team sports each season for our students, but then also offer alternatives such as mountain biking and trail building, skiing, and dance for students who may still wish, because all students do participate in an afternoon activity, but maybe not necessarily want to participate in a competitive team sport. Bement is also really proud of our outdoor education center, which we are now in our 4th year, where all of our classes, both our academic classes, but our arts classes, spend time up at our outdoor classroom and trails and campsite on campus. I mentioned Bement's sense of family and sense of community, and part of that is built with an intentionally small boarding program. At Bement, we will really only enroll between 50 and 55 boarding students, so we can offer smaller living spaces of no more than 10 students per dorm. Our smallest dorm actually has 5 students in it, and these smaller groupings allow us at Bement to provide the close-knit community and second family to our boarding students at an age when close supervision and guidance is essential in helping them gain a strong sense of independence and responsibility, preparing them for secondary school. And our dorm parents really play an essential role in this. We're proud of our students and where they head off to. On our website, you certainly can see a complete list, but this past school year's graduates heading off to Deerfield and Choate, Hotchkiss, Taft, Loomis and Holderness, Berkshire, Andover, Petty, Putney, and Ethel Walker School, which is certainly, as much to what as Bill had mentioned, part of our goal is to make sure that the student's successful experience at Bement continues on wherever they go next, and helping that their next step is one that is a good fit. Each of us in our offices and at the junior boarding school level, we work well together and collaboratively, because our mission we all have in mind is to make sure that the student is the right fit for our school and our school is the right fit for the student. That doesn't just stop when they come into our schools, but it also happens on their way out. So thank you again, and I appreciate a chance to be here tonight. And with that, I'll turn it over to, I think, my neighbor, Christopher.
Christopher, yes.
Yes. Thank you very much, Kim. And I believe everything she says because I am a happy parent of a Bement graduate. My daughter went to Bement and it's a wonderful school. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to share with you a little bit about Eaglebrook. We are a school in Deerfield, Massachusetts. We are just up the hill from, hold on for a second. We are just up the hill from Bement. We're a school of 250 students, 200 boarders. We have 50-day students. We are an all-boys school, and we are in our 99th year. We were founded in 1922 by Howard B. Gibbs. We are on rolling admission, and February 1st is our financial aid deadline. Academics is the true focus of Eaglebrook, preparing kids for secondary school academically, making sure that they understand the appropriate and the necessary skills to enjoy the process of learning. Our average class size is 8 to 10, and we have over 61 different elective offerings. Our core classes, English, history, science, world languages, and math. So it is really a well-structured and rigorous academic program. In conjunction with that, we have some amazing extracurricular opportunities for kids to expand their growth in the arts, and also in other interest areas, whether it be robotics or debate. And there are many opportunities for leaderships for the ninth graders, which are known as sixth formers at Eaglebrook, in the form of committees. The athletic program is something that I talked about earlier, is an essential part of the curriculum at Eaglebrook. Not just the residential curriculum, not just the academic curriculum, but the athletic curriculum is very important. In the fall, we have a wide range of offerings for students. In the winter, we have a great hockey program, basketball, competitive skiing. We are one of the few schools in the nation to have their own ski area, which is really very nice to have, and I'm sure it'll be well used this year. So there's just a lot of opportunities for kids to have fun in the wintertime. In the spring, there's some great offerings, baseball, lacrosse, golf, track and field, ultimate disc. So our facilities, all of our facilities at junior boarding schools are truly outstanding. At Eaglebrook, we do have some really wonderful athletic facilities, the Matthews Tennis Center and the Easton Ski Area, as I mentioned. But we have a sports center with many different opportunities for kids to expand in their understanding of athletics. And as mentioned before, we are a school that is based on the shared learning and the close-knit connection of so many students, faculty, and staff with a robust weekend program. It is really a wonderful time for boys to develop that inner confidence and belief in the skills that they have. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you. Okay, so next up we have Faye.
Hi, thank you, Katie. And I just want to really thank all my colleagues because I feel like before it's my turn, you guys went through so much great information about junior boarding. It makes it a lot easier, I think, to present because I feel like you guys already kind of gave everyone the fundamentals. So I'm going to share my screen and hopefully I do it correctly here. And what I have for you guys is a little sample kind of our virtual tour. Again, I think my colleagues did a great job of explaining junior boarding and kind of explaining the basics that, you know, all of our schools, I think, do incredibly well. A little bit more specifics about Faye. So Faye is a co-ed junior boarding school located in Southborough, Massachusetts. So that's kind of what you're looking at here. You're looking at our main campus. So we have a 30-acre main campus in Southborough, and Southborough is about 25 miles outside of Boston. It's a really beautiful small town. I always say, you know, we're far enough away from the city where we kind of avoid the noise and the traffic a lot, but we're certainly close enough to be able to access all the great things that the city can offer as well. We also have a 36-acre athletic campus located about a mile up the road, and this is where we would have our varsity soccer fields, varsity baseball diamond, and our varsity softball diamond as well. Faye was founded in 1866, so making us the very first junior boarding school in the country. And we're founded by two sisters, Eliza Faye and Harriet Burnett. And they were cousins of Joseph Burnett, who founded St. Mark's School, which is a secondary school located in Southborough as well, basically right across the street from us. So a year after St. Mark's was founded, you know, his cousin said, we need a school to help prepare students for your school. And that was kind of where Faye came from. And we started with 7 boys in one building. And that was the entire school back in 1866. I would say over the last, 150 or so years, we've certainly grown quite a bit. We now serve students from kindergarten through 9th grade. We have 475 total students at our school. Our school's organized into 3 different divisions. We have a primary school from kindergarten through 2nd grade, a lower school from 3rd grade through 6th grade. And then our upper school is 7th grade through 9th grade. And the upper school is where we have our boarding program. So, for those 3 grades, 7th through 9th, we have 150 boarding students total. It's about a 50-50 split in the boarding population between international boarders and domestic boarders. Our international population represents 22 different countries around the world this year, and then 14 different states around the United States from the domestic side. I think, the biggest thing about Faye is, as Chris mentioned it earlier about that balance, right? We want that balance in education. And I think Faye does that incredibly well. I think, our focus is always to try and create that balance between tradition and innovation, right? So we have a lot of longstanding traditions at Faye, which we're very proud of. And we're very proud that we can kind of keep them going each year. I think what that does is it creates a huge network, with our alumni group, where, we have students that are 14 years old that talk to alumni that are 65 years old, and they have a shared experience because of, some of the traditions that we still uphold here at Faye. But we always want to be innovative. We always want to kind of be pushing the educational curve a little bit forward. So, a lot of our academic programs, I would say a lot of our diversity programs and kind of community building programs, a lot of those are, I would say, pretty cutting edge and kind of always on the cusp of, what's going to be next and can we get there, a little bit sooner. So, I think our community is a very special part of Faye. Obviously a very diverse community. But I would say more than anything, the thing that we are very proud of is the character development here. And again, I know, we talked about character development at our schools, and the importance of that. And I think that that's something that Faye really focuses on. So, it's the way I just always describe it is it's really easy for the adults to say, hey, we want to work on character development, or hey, you guys need to have better manners, you guys need to be polite. It's really something special when that kind of message is coming from the other students. And I think that that's something that I found which is pretty special at Faye, where, if you're not holding the door open for someone who's following you, if you're not saying thank you, you're not saying please, it's really the other students that tend to kind of get on each other for that, and make sure that we kind of keep each other, on our best behavior. Our classes, our average class size is 14 students. Excuse me. But it's really a wide range at Faye. And that wide range, I would say, it applies to a lot of things, with our school. We have a wide range of students. I think we're known, for our academic program being very strong. We do have a rigorous academic program, but, we have a wide range of students, and we certainly recognize that everyone learns in a very unique way. So I think as a school, we work really hard, and as a faculty, we work really hard to make sure that we understand each student as individual learners. And then when we understand it, it's a lot easier to help them understand themselves a little bit too. So I think that that's always the goal, is to make sure that, we're working with that wide range of students, and, we're, certainly helping them develop and continue to develop their strengths, but really at the same time to improve, those areas of weakness as well. And I'll just go through a couple other places here. So, again, that well-balanced program, making sure that we have a great arts program, music program, drama, athletics, community service is very important for us. Public speaking, and along with our academic program is really a very important piece to the education for our students here. So we have amazing facilities at Faye, as all of our junior schools do, and I think that it's a pretty unique opportunity. When you have seventh graders, in spaces like this, where they're working with 3D printers, they're working with laser cutters, they're really they have exposure to some of the great resources that I would say a lot of these top secondary schools have, for sure. And we are very fortunate that we can allow our students and give access to our students at a younger age. So, I would say in brief, again, I want to thank my colleagues, because I think you guys did an amazing job of kind of describing what a junior boarding education is like. And, I think I would leave everyone with just saying that throughout this admissions process, and, if you are interested in the schools, it's incredibly important to make sure that you connect with each school that you have on your list, and to really try and understand what the community is like, because as similar as we all are, we're also very different as well. And I think it's a really important part of the process to make sure that we can go through, and you can find the right fit for your child. So I think that's probably the most important part. So thank you for the time, and I look forward to hearing some of these other presentations as well.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Greg, Fessenden.
Yes, Greg Hendrick from Fessenden. And as I share my screen, two things kind of popped into my head about the difficulties or the challenges of doing this process on Zoom, on this platform. And that's that. Ideally, we'd have you on campus. And my favorite word to talk about is engagement. When a family comes on campus and we walk around, you would meet some students, you would meet teachers, and then we have a conversation afterwards. And usually the engagement level is what really comes out. And it's just impossible to get that across on this platform. And then also having 5 minutes to talk about the school. It's just impossible to get all the important parts across to you. It deserves so much more time. So I really recommend everyone to look into all of these schools. And again, as Matt was just saying at the end, find the school that ultimately would be the right fit for your child. And even step out of that comfort zone. If you're thinking co-ed, put a one or two all boys schools, or if you're thinking all boys, put a co-ed school on there and really get a sense of the community. So again, Fessenden, that last slide, we're 10 miles just outside of Boston. We have 105 beds in our boarding program, so we are a combination of a day school as well as a boarding school. We begin the boarding program for 5th graders. However, I've actually been at the school for about 15 years now, and I would say about half of those years we do not have any 5th graders. If we can get to a critical mass of 3 or 4, we may have boys of that age. So the majority of our students, 7th, 8th, 9th grade, we have 8 boys in 6th grade this year, which is a nice number for us. These are some of the states from last year that we had represented. So it's a balance of international students. I think the next slide it's more of a world map. As well as domestic, and then 5-day boarding for boys that may live close to the Boston area. I just wrote down a couple keywords that I'm hoping to address in these few minutes. Boys, Boston, educating the whole child, and then innovation. And I'm just going to skip through a few of these. It's really interesting how each of these schools are founded. It sounds like as a feeder school for some other traditional boarding school. And in our case, Frederick Fessenden was a graduate of Exeter and bought this beautiful property just outside of Boston. We're about 41 acres and started as a feeder school for boys to hopefully move on to Exeter. We still send boys there, but also to many, many other schools. All right, numbers wise, I said 105 boarders. Our upper school is about 50% day students, 50% boarding students. So it's a really nice balance. We love when local day families will invite a boarding student home for a weekend or a night and have some home cooked meals, and vice versa. When our day students can go travel domestically or internationally and spend some time on a vacation or over the summer learning a different culture. Wonderful campus. I think I said 41 acres, our own hockey rink, and new squash courts, wonderful new innovation center, tennis courts, everything. So I'm going to go through some of these. This is the photo I wanted to stop. This proximity to Boston, where we can get there on the weekends, and we break up the weekends where we give the boys maybe 4 or 5 different options on a Friday night, and then again on Saturday morning, afternoon, evening. And we realize we want these boys to work hard. We realize they maybe need some downtime on the weekends, and that's totally fine. However, we have the playground, if you will, of Boston just down the street. It's not uncommon to have a 5:30 Friday night meal, and then we could get into a Boston College or a Boston University sporting event, or a dessert in Harvard Square, or a concert or a museum or something just a few minutes later. So we really take advantage of the location there. Talking about the all boys piece. And I just kind of think back of myself. I actually never attended an all boys school. And in hindsight, I wish I had. During these middle school years, it's a pretty complicated time in a child's life. There's a lot going on. And in the all boys setting, it just kind of simplifies these years, takes out a big variable for a few years, allows these boys to find new passions, really get involved in the passions they already have, and hopefully find their voice, find that confidence. I know when I started at a day school, an independent school for high school, I was quiet, I was shy. And if I had had the Fessenden experience, I think I would have had that voice a little quicker in my educational career. So the all boys, the Boston, talking about the whole child. And we talk about the balance inside the classroom, in the arts areas, the athletics fields, and I want to add character on that too. Character is an underlying theme that we stress at all, whatever a boy is doing. Honesty, compassion, respect, 3 of the key words that we try to live by. That last photo back there was our beautiful new 2,400 square foot innovation center. I say brand new, it's actually now 4 or so years old. Lots of project-based learning. Again, taking advantage of the proximity to Boston. We have a wonderful collaboration through MIT. They have a program called New View, and we are one of 20 schools around the world that has partnered with New View. And in this beautiful space, I keep going back there, we're able to, we have 10 3D printers, all these fabrication tools, and leading these boys on wonderful project-based learning experiences. And then again, on weekends, as I think it was Matt was saying, you know, we proximity to Boston, but then again, we can get to the mountains of New Hampshire and Vermont and Maine and go skiing and hiking and kayaking, whatnot. Innovation, I talk about all boys receive laptop computers, but we want to find a balance. We don't want everything they're doing, all notes taken on a keyboard. Plenty of boys are handwriting their notes in classes. This is a photo of an upper school science class. Obviously, it was not taken this year, but you see some boys with their laptops, other boys taking handwritten notes. In a classroom setting like this, we do not want the teacher standing in front lecturing to these boys. It's a history class. Maybe he's introducing the topic, but we want these boys challenging each other. We want them challenging their teacher. We might want 3 or 4 boys taking a deep dive in a certain aspect and then presenting to the class. There's a great, you know, there's a story behind this boy, Charlestown, right out of the neighborhood of Boston. He was a day student with us for a while. He's now a 5-day boarder. He's a dorm proctor in our program as a 9th grader. That's one of those leadership roles that I alluded to earlier. This particular boy, I don't know exactly his school list that he's deep involved with right now, but he's gonna have a wonderful experience. Any school would be fortunate to have him. Great arts program. There's one particular photo I want to get to. Again, weekend, I don't know which beach this was, but you know, within 45 minutes, we can get to beaches and swim and surf and fish, all kinds of fun things. This was in Faneuil Hall, Quincy Market in Boston. Again, kids from all over the globe there. Wonderful athletics. One of the boys in that photo is committed to play down in Katie's neighborhood at UNC. He's at Loomis Chaffee now and headed to a great college soccer career. I apologize again for only having 5 minutes, but this wonderful innovation center, there's one of the boys in that soccer photo is on the right here, really taking a deep dive in that New View program that I said is shepherded by MIT. That's a better photo of the new innovation center. We just built this a couple years ago. This program, we've tweaked it a little bit, is roughly modeled on the Shark Tank television show, where these boys are asked to come up with a product, an invention, fabricate it, and then write a business plan and present it to venture capitalists. For any parents out there, families, this gentleman, Science Bob, is worth looking up. All you have to do is Google Science Bob. He's got an incredible amount of YouTube videos. He's a regular on Jimmy Kimmel's late night show. He's a little resident celebrity on campus. This is a terrific photo, and there's a little story behind this. This is about 1.5 years old. Where we opened this recital hall. Unfortunately, we can't be playing music in there right now. This is actually a 2nd grade classroom, believe it or not. As our socially distanced environment, we have a group of 2nd graders in this beautiful new room. Wonderful arts programs, wood shop, digital filmmaking, digital photography, beautiful new theater for 250 folks. Again, I just want to get to a couple of the athletic photos, show you some of the facilities. And wonderful array with our own hockey rink on campus. A little bit of a sad day for me. Today I was supposed to start formally coaching hockey. We are going to be having a varsity team, probably not competing. I coach some of the younger boys, so we're not able to run the hockey program this winter. Again, this is the photo I just wanted to stop on with the proximity to Boston, the city right there. This is our crew team. So many wonderful stories about boys that might come to a school like Fessenden, and let's just say they're a soccer player or a hockey player, and that's their sport. They are required to participate in an athletic activity in the springtime. Many choose crew. After a year or two, this becomes a real passion of theirs and a really important factor in their high school choice. All right. So again, I could go on and on, but please seek us out, seek out a couple of these other schools. They're all terrific, and hopefully find out the right fit for your child. So I will stop sharing there and pass it on.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, Bill.
Yes, thanks.
A little bit about Hillside.
Sure. Given the hour, I'm going to defer the visuals to our website. We have some wonderful videos. I'll let families pursue those individually. So briefly, I just want to mention what I love about Hillside is the fact that it was founded in 1901, originally as a boys' orphanage. And I love that tradition of being a home first. I think it speaks to what boys this age need in order to be able to perform academically, athletically. Unless students feel safe and secure in their setting, can we expect anything from them? So that tradition of being a home first still exists today in a number of ways. We refer to our dormitories as homes, faculty as house parents. Our meals are served family style. Upon arrival, each new student is assigned a big brother, and every student has an advisor. Hillside is located 45 minutes west of Boston on a beautiful 150-acre campus. Here we have the best of both worlds, as Greg was referring to, easy access to museums, airports, theme parks, and the beaches of the North Shore, to 2 ski resorts within 20 minutes of the school. We have a working farm, and over 1/3 of the food we grow and raise is served in our dining room. Today, we have 165 students in grades 4 through 9, 112 boarders and 53 day students, representing 13 states and 5 countries. Our signature programs would include both the farm, the iLab, complete with laser cutters, 3D printers, but what we're probably most renowned for is our tutorial program. We have 5 certified learning skills specialists who work with about 35%, 40% of our student population, typically students diagnosed with ADHD who need additional support around executive function. We have a Foundations of Language tutorial for students with a language-based learning disability, math tutorial, a social skills tutorial, and this has become one of our strongest, most popular academic support program. It's been in place now close to 20 years. And again, a full-time staff of 5 who oversee that program. It works in conjunction with our faculty. We create an academic student profile for our teachers. so they understand the needs of our students coming in. And the overarching goal is to wean these students out of the tutorial program once they've begun to internalize the compensatory strategies they've been taught during the course of the year. Some of the tutorials meet twice a week, some 4 times a week. We do not pull children out of class for tutorial, but it's been a key factor in their ability to then transition onto high school as a confident and independent student. So please check out our hillsideschool.net website. And we have an open house this coming Thursday, December 3rd at 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, Heather, Indian Mountain.
Great, thanks, Katie. I'm just going to share my screen. And I think it goes without saying, what we've all touched on here is that there are more similarities than differences with all of our schools. So really encourage you to visit our school websites, contact us in person, and when we're able to, come visit our campus, because really experiencing firsthand and seeing if you can picture yourself in those classroom buildings or on that campus is really the most important, because at all of our schools, you will receive an amazing education. You'll be super well prepared for secondary school, and you'll have a community around you where, you know, so much of it is academic development, but like everyone's been speaking to, the character piece and how we really prepare our students, not just for school, but for life. I'll just quickly go through, because I know that we're short on time here, but we are 600 acres located in Northwest Connecticut. So we're actually 5 minutes down the road from Hotchkiss, about 15 minutes from Berkshire School, 10 minutes from Salisbury Boys School and Millbrook. So we are in the northwest corner of Connecticut, but 2 hours north of New York City. So our students frequently find it really easy to come right into JFK. And there is a train about 20 minutes away that goes directly into Grand Central in an hour and 45 minutes. We are coming up on our centennial. We were founded in 1922. We have actually now closer to 300 students pre-K to grade 9. We're boarding grades 6 through 9, but likely 5th grade boarders starting for this coming year with over 100 boarders, and typically over 18 to 20 countries represented. That was a little bit different this year because of students that were able to get to our campus. But diversity in all respects is something that's really important to us. We have an average class size of 12 and a student teacher ratio of 4 to 1. About 3 years ago, we went through a strategic planning process. And so as a community, we involved all of our different constituents and looked at who we are as a school. We wrote our mission, which you'll see in a future slide, but really looking at who our students are, who will they become, and trying to create and build upon a transformational learning experience that is research-based in how adolescents this age learn best and how our curriculum is tailored to that, all along with our core values of honesty, compassion, and respect, and our founding motto of life through service guiding what we do. So as I touched on, we went through a strategic planning process. We rewrote our mission of our school. We wanted it to embody not just the students at a certain age group, but pre-K through 9, faculty, staff, really inspiring everyone in our community, the courage to climb, the joy to create, the passion to learn, and the spirit to contribute in kind and meaningful ways. Our strategic plan brochure, I won't go into. I actually removed the slides here given time, but we developed 5 priorities, which you can see on our website. We actually have our own mountain in addition to having 600 acres. So Indian Mountain is where, the name is derived from, but right in our backyard, we have 600 acres of trails and hiking and ponds and exploration for our students. Like so many have touched on, it's really a student-centered active learning experience approach. These are just a few examples of, different Model UN, ethic bowls. We had a 6th grade class here creating podcasts on Greek mythology. We have our own recording studio. So much of our classes is project-based and hands-on learning, and really getting our classes to be an exciting place to live and learn, where students feel engaged, they feel like their voice is empowered, and they feel a real part of the learning process, versus an environment where, they're just sitting there listening to a lecture of the faculty members. And the faculty members, like so many have said before, it takes a certain type of faculty member to really love this age group, and they are so committed and passionate about what they teach, and they just want to share that with their students and instill that same passion in our learning. Just quickly, this is our student center, which also houses our fine arts, our maker space with our 3D printers and VEX robotics sets, and our fine arts classes. We also offer a wide range of music and the arts, everything from beginning guitar to advanced guitar, with at least 40 students in that, a rock band, jazz band, a theater production. We actually have had some students that are at high-level musicians that have worked with a college, Bard College, which is about an hour away. And so we've have students that are studying there, working with professors in addition to our music faculty, and Hotchkiss, which is right down the road. So we've worked with them for some of our musicians as well. Like all of our schools, we have so many different offerings for sports. We have over 18 different options for kids. I had to throw an Instagram picture of our girls soccer team because they're still undefeated 4 years in, and they still count this year, even though they only played each other. In the winter, we use a lot of our facilities from our friends right down the road. So they're playing squash and swimming and skating on the Hotchkiss campus 5 days a week. We have a local ski mountain that's close by, so we have a strong racing program. We also use some of the facilities at Berkshire and Salisbury School as well. So our students are playing all of these high schools. So before they even have to apply, they're either practicing or on their campuses for sports. So they get a real feel for schools, and if they're thinking about a big school, a small school, and the different personalities before they have the pressure of the interview and going for the campus tour. Just some quick updates. We renovated all of our dorm common rooms and dormitories, expanded dormitory enrollment. We recently completed 6 tennis courts, which were set in the fall. And so all of our students were so excited to come back in March to play on them, but they waited until the fall and it was just as good. Although our 9th graders were a little upset. In March, we are breaking ground on Fieldhouse, which was supposed to start this past summer, but it was a little bit delayed, but it will have 2 basketball multi-purpose court spaces for volleyball, basketball, 4 squash courts, and a great community space for our students on the weekends, which you can find pictures of that on our website. Our upper campus has a skills thread where they focus on public speaking, a course on learning in the brain, coding, design thinking, in addition to so many different elective courses that students can choose from throughout the school year, like all of our schools, over 20 different offerings. Our 9th graders do a United Nations capstone project, which I'm happy to speak more to with any family. And we recently launched an Ascend program for students with literacy-based learning needs like dyslexia as well. This spring, we also had planned to open the OWL, a Net Zero Outdoor Working Lab. And so that was pushed to our fall, but at the base of our mountain, we have a state-of-the-art net zero teaching and learning facility for all of our grades, pre-K through 9. I mentioned the UN project, capstone project for our 9th graders. Some of our 9th graders actually designed this building. Instead of picking a global problem to develop a solution 4 years ago, we had a group of 9th graders that worked with our director of buildings and grounds. They researched what went into a sustainable building, solar energy, and they built this, built renderings, and then presented them to the faculty, to our whole school community, and then turned them over to architects. And so This is the first year that the building is live, and our students have been making every second of use out of it. And so this is just another shot of our beautiful campus, and we would love to see you. So please reach out. We'd be happy to set up an individual Zoom with families anytime, and love to see you in Lakeville. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Heather. Okay, Evan from Rectory.
Hi, everyone. My name is Evan Campbell. Like I said before, Senior Enrollment Manager here at Rectory. I'm going to try to keep this as brief as I can. I know you guys have been grinding it out with us for about the last hour and 20 minutes, and so we can hopefully get to your questions and answers as soon as we can. A lot of what I say might be a little bit redundant on what some of our peer schools have said, but I'll try to keep it as fresh as possible. Rectory, we are a co-ed junior boarding school. So as you look at the landscape of junior boarding schools, there are 6 all boys. There are 4 all boys. There are 6 co-ed. We are one of the 6 co-ed ones. We are one of the 9 that are in New England. There is one up in New York as well. Looking at just a couple of statistics for us, average class size is 10. We will not go above 14 in any class. We're 40% girls and 60% boys. And that's for really our residential number. In terms of our day component, which is about 1/3 of our student body. That's going to be about half and half with boys and girls, but residentially, it's going to be about 40% girls, 60% boys. Faculty to student ratio is 4:1. And if you do love dogs, 21 dogs on campus. If you love cats, we have a bunch of cats on campus. If you love other animals, we're more than happy to take a weekend trip to the zoo. As you look at our academics, once again, we are another junior boarding school that believes in a brain-based, student-centered learning model. We really want to focus on collaboration. We want to focus on our students working together and learning from each other as much as they're learning from a teacher. We see a lot of families who end up applying to us because they no longer want to be in a lecture-based environment. They no longer want to be in a class of 25 where you can sit in the back row, get lost in the classroom, and just try to regurgitate information that your teacher gave you. That's not going to happen at Rectory. In fairness to all of our peer schools, it's not going to happen at theirs either, right? We're going to have our students working together, doing a lot of group work, doing a lot of projects. Something that is a little bit unique about us, we individually place all of our students in every single class that they take. Whether it's English, science, history, math, or a foreign language, it's really hard to see 2 students with the exact same schedule because there is individual placement and we're dealing with students who do learn differently based on the subject that they may be studying. We have a 7-day rotation where you meet with every class 5 out of every 7 academic days for an hour. Twice a week, we offer enrichment. So we call it enrichment. It would basically be open office hours for our teachers. So for half an hour every Tuesday afternoon, for half an hour every Thursday afternoon, our students can sign up to go see any teacher or administrator that's on campus. And they'll just be able to work with them maybe on a project that's coming up, a test that's coming up. I'm a capstone advisor for a couple kids, even though I'm not, an in-classroom teacher, or maybe just even a meeting with your coach. We do have an advisory program like all the other schools. We will not go above 4 in our advisory. So it will be about 4 kids to 1 adult, sometimes 3 kids to 1 adult. And that's somebody you're going to meet with 3 times a week. We also have a lot of flexibility, like you've heard from the other junior boarding schools. And we have a great elective program. Some of our favorites that we have a newspaper group, we have a woodshop group, we have a mountain biking group, and we do have a group that's called For the Love of Chocolate. I'm not sure how academic it is. I think that they just want to eat chocolate. As we move on to our unique programs, what might make us stand out from our peers? Number 2, residential life, not going to make us stand out too much because all these schools, junior boarding. So that's going to be a little bit redundant. One thing that does make us stand out is that we do have a phenomenal learning services program. So we called our individualized instruction program. You could look at it as tutoring, but I would say that it's both remedial for students who may need a little bit of additional support. We do have a couple Orton Gillingham trained tutors if you are a dyslexic student or parents of a dyslexic student. We do also work with students with ADD, ADHD, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, and students with processing issues as well. We also use that IIP program for enrichment. I know Greg said that he had a soccer player that was going on to Loomis Chaffee, going down to North Carolina, which is awesome. But to use Loomis Chaffee as an example, I'm sure every one of us has students who are going to Loomis Chaffee. Great school, unbelievable school. We're all working with students who are on the level to go to those schools as well. In terms of another unique program for us, our March Experiential Learning Program, you would go on a 2-week spring break. The 3rd week in March, you'll go and do an experiential learning trip, really somewhere in the country. We do have a number of on-campus offerings for younger students in 5th and 6th grade. 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, we start to do more off-campus trips with all of our 9th graders going off campus. A couple that are, I think, highlight programs for us. We do have, it's called Charter Philly, where our students go to Philadelphia and volunteer in a charter school for the week. We had one that experienced Disney World last year and 2 years ago and went down to Disney World. We had Access Hollywood, where we had a group go out to California. We had a group that saltwater rafted in Arizona. So it's a really, really cool opportunity for all of our kids. And if you are a student who is on a financial aid, it's all part of your tuition. So there's no additional cost for it. We do have a school counseling program. I haven't heard much about it from any other school. I know other schools have it as well, but we have a director of student counseling and a full-time school counselor. So that is something that's really important for us right now, to make sure that we are taking care of each individual's emotional well-being as much as their intellectual well-being. So we do have the school counseling. Music at Rectory School, which I'll talk about music in a minute, but that is a one-on-one music program. So we have kids taking lessons in all different instruments and with singing. Dedicated secondary school placement office. You've already heard from Bill Newman about that, and pretty much everything he said about Hillside would be redundant here at Rectory. And then we also have a SHIELD program, which is student happiness, inclusion, equity, leadership, and difference. It's our diversity, equity, and inclusion, a student-led program here at the school. For athletics, very similar to the other schools as well. 39 teams in 20 sports. As Heather said about her varsity girls soccer team, all of our teams were undefeated this fall. They did a great job, or winless, depending on which side of the inter-squad scrimmages that you might have been on. But we have 20 different sports that we offer, all the main sports that you would see at all the other junior boarding schools. So we're going to have a hockey team. We're going to have basketball. We're going to have soccer and tennis and baseball. We do have equestrian, squash, fencing, and swimming, which are options that are just a little bit more rare. I know I've seen this sprinkled in some of the other presentations, but not every school has every one of those offerings. We are offering varsity and sub-varsity offerings in virtually every one of those sports too. So if you look at Rectory, you basically get to pick your sport, and we're going to find the level that's appropriate for you. At the varsity level, you're going to compete with the varsity teams from the other junior boarding schools and a lot of high school JV teams. At the sub-varsity level, you're going to be competing against sub-varsity teams from other junior boarding schools and also a lot of local day options. In the performing arts, we're a school that puts a ton into the performing arts. We have an orchestra, we have a jazz band, we have a 9th grade ensemble, we have a chorus, we have an a cappella group, we have a spring musical. And it's really cool with our schedule that our kids can be involved in all those musical offerings and involved in athletics. And that's something where I grew up and I went to public school, and you didn't play sports and get involved in the performing arts. It wasn't just something that you would do, typically in a public school setting. At a junior boarding school in general, I'm not going to say just Rectory, although I'm presenting about my school right now, but at a junior boarding school, you're able to do everything and you're able to be really, really involved. And there's no stigma in anything that you're going to be involved in. And I think that's what makes our school such a special place. If you are a student who likes more of the visual arts, we do have 2 dark rooms for students that like to do the old school photography. We have a kiln, and we do have a number of award-winning artists, including the young lady who drew the picture in the bottom right-hand corner. And I was trying to get through that as quickly as possible. So if you couldn't keep up, hopefully you go back and rewatch that maybe in half speed. But here's a picture of our campus from a topographic view. And then the 4 of us that work in the admissions office. I'm very glad that my face is covering up the picture that's being shown for me. So that's everything for Rectory. Obviously, like the other schools have said, if you have any questions about our school, just reach out to one of us. Go to our website. You can find our information. If you're fortunate enough to be working with somebody like Katie, use her as a resource and ask her. She would be more than happy to put you in touch really with any one of us from any of our schools. We'd love to have you, in terms of Rectory, for our virtual tour, for our student panel, for one of our open houses, to listen to our podcast. There's a ton of information for our school, a ton of information for all the junior boarding schools out there, and it's really on, I would say, you as a consumer to try to digest as much as possible, because as similar as we all are, as you can tell from our messaging, there is a little bit different of a feel at every school. And it's tough in a year like this because typically you'd visit, Greg at Fessenden and Heather at IMS and Bill at Hillside, and then maybe me at Rectory, and that school that looks perfect for you and checks every box, you just don't get that gut feeling that you really love it and it feels like home. Whereas you will visit a campus once you're able to, and in a campus would feel like home to you. And I know you miss out on a little of that this year. So it's really imperative for you as a consumer to do as much research and digest as much material as possible. With that said, I'm going to stop sharing right now and turn it over to, I believe, Ben's turn to talk again from Rumsey Hall.
All right. So let's see here. All right. So I'll try not to be repetitive. I'm not a big numbers and facts guy. Like many of the middle schoolers that you all have, I have a very short attention span and can only process so much. So I hope that by the end of this, you'll get a sense for who we are at Rumsey and what we're all about. You know, it's kind of, this is just to start a little story. The last 10 days, we had a great Thanksgiving break, and all of our boarders went home and went their own ways. And we had 2 boys who got stuck on campus, and it was all organized for them to stay with their dorm parents and get meals and what have you. And I said, that's silly. Why don't I just have them down to Rhode Island, to my house, and have them experience American Thanksgiving and come with us? So I had adopted these 2 boys. They're Japanese boys, and I adopted them for the 10 days, and they got to experience a real American Thanksgiving. I got them out of the dorm, and it was actually great because my son, who's also a student at Rumsey in the 8th grade, actually had some buddies to pal around with. And it's stories like that that make all these schools really unique, because when we take your children, when you entrust your children to us, they truly become a part of our family. And we are going to do everything in our power to make them feel at home. And a lot of that is yeah, while they're on campus, but there is more teachable moments in a student's day than you could ever imagine. And I often, when I'm talking to new faculty members about their experiences, I say, listen, you're going to do your teaching inside the classroom and you're going to do your coaching, but most of the teaching that you do is going to be in the dorm and on the weekend trips and everything else that you do, and in all the other hats that you wear here. As you can see, we're just north of New York, and we currently have 309 students and 109 boarders. And we were founded in 1900, so we're an old school as well. And if you start to see and compare the values of all our schools, you're going to really see some overlying messages. And honesty, kindness, respect, compassion, you're going to see these words over and over again. One aspect that makes us a little bit different is effort. Rumsey grades every student on their effort every single week. And they get what's called an effort card. So in that, they will get a report of how well they're doing in comparison to how hard they're trying in every class. And they might not be doing well as far as getting an A in every class, but if they're on the effort list or if they're getting superior effort grades, then that's all you can ask of them. And we're looking at the whole person approach to teaching. And obviously athletics is also an important part of what we do, but we don't recruit for athletics. We don't look for great soccer players or great rowers or great football players. If you happen to be a great athlete and you come and we have your sport, that's awesome. And we will make you even a better athlete. But we also do a great job at helping develop athletes and develop enjoyment for each sport. And that's true about art and music and in all of the opportunities that students have in that respect. And you know, the one thing I started here 17 years ago, and the one thing that's kept me here is truly the community. You know, when I speak to all my former students, many of them are now married with kids, and it's really weird. Um, I have four former students who I taught 7th and 8th grade to, who now work at Rumsey with me, which is even kind of mind-boggling because I think I'm young, but I guess I'm not in the end. But it's the Rumsey community that has really left its mark on me, and allowed me to enjoy my time here. And when you have a setting as beautiful as Rumsey is, and each school has its own specific setting that is quite remarkable, um, you have to try hard not to take advantage of all those things afforded to you. You know, so I love to fly fish. I love teaching some of our students how to fly fish. Um, and we get out in the river, as you know, every day if we can, during free time. And just like the community is connected, and I love the fact that there's no hierarchy depending on where you're from. And you know, just like many of our schools, we don't lose very many 8th graders to the secondary school. Most of them will stick around because they know that that 9th grade experience is so important to really developing what they need to go on to a top school, a school that's appropriate to them, and to find success. Um, and this is just a little thing about teachers. Qui non proficit deficit is our Latin motto, and it basically means he who is not moving forward is moving backwards. And that goes to our whole idea of working hard and effort being the criterion for success. And that's it.
Thank you so much. That was great, all of you. I'm sorry. I know that each of you could have spoken for much longer about your amazing schools. And I know it's hard to keep it condensed and limited during this time, but I really appreciate it. It definitely makes me wish that I could, maybe in my next life, I'll spend, you know, maybe 6 months and just tour each of y'all's boarding schools and just like stay in the dorms and everything. Take the classes, learn how to fly fish, maybe take up skiing, you know, some of those good things. But they're all incredible. So thank you for sharing your schools and your communities with us tonight. So a recording of the webinar for tonight will be put on the Boarding School 360 website, along with the other webinars we have done so far. We do have another one coming up in January, which is going to be about summer programs that are taking place on boarding school campuses. So some of you on the panel tonight might be part of that as well. But there will be other schools on that as well. So for those of you that have attended tonight or are watching the recording, we hope it's been helpful. I think all of us are very sincere in saying that we are here to help you. So should you have any questions about junior boarding school or the process, you're welcome to reach out to me, or if you want to reach out to any of the schools personally, you can do that. Or if you'd like me to help make the connections, I'm happy to do that as well. All of these, you know, admissions experts are more than willing to help out how they can in this process. As we know, it's a little different this year. So thank you so much for joining me tonight to the panel. I really appreciate it. And hope that you guys all have a great rest of your week. And for those of you who are going through the boarding school process, the best of luck to all of you. And please be in touch. Can we be of help? So thank you guys.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.